where anybody who's linked to the ruling party seemingly can get away with it. There's also politics at play, which is playing out in full public glare. Today, a BJP fact-finding committee landed up in the college. They couldn't speak with the victim. The TMC says that the BJP coming there and making this all about politics is nothing but naked politicization. The question is, it was RG Kar and that unfortunate victim last year. Today, it's the South Calcutta Law College. Who is and continues to fail the Betis of Bengal?
अभी देखिए हम लोग का कंडीशन ठीक नहीं है ना. देखिए हमको जो लगता है हम लोग को प्रशासन के ऊपर भरोसा है. हम लोग जानता है जो उससे कुछ न कुछ होगा. हम लोग भी चाहता है अच्छा शास्ति होगा. हम लोग को डिमांड है सरकार से कुछ डिमांड नहीं है. हम लोग को अच्छी शास्ति चाहिए, कड़ा शास्ति चाहिए, कड़ा से कड़ी शास्ति. उसको फांसी जाता है हम लोग.
Now, the similarities between what happened in RG Kar last year and what has happened at the Calcutta Law College are very, very similar, very, very eerie to say the least. In August of last year, a 31-year-old postgraduate trainee doctor was raped and murdered at the RG Kar Medical College and Hospital. 10 months on, this is a redux. This is something that has happened yet again inside another campus, this time the South Kolkata Law College campus. There are striking similarities between both cases, and the inference that one must draw is, have no lessons been learnt then? Both these incidents took place inside a college campus where you would imagine that safety is of the highest priority. There is an implicit safety guarantee, particularly for women college students inside the four walls of the campus. It should be secure for all students, but in particular for girl students. Both the accused in the RG Kar case as well as in this case, both happen to be insiders. They were on the payrolls of the college. In the case of RG Kar, it was a civilian volunteer who was posted with the Kolkata police. He was posted in the college. And in this case, it happens to be a temporary faculty member. In both cases, CCTV footage happens to be key evidence, putting the accused at the scene of the crime, corroborating the details that the victim made of the crime. The victim of the crime in RG Kar unfortunately paid the price with her life, but the injuries on the victim's body in this case are also quite extensive. There is alleged patronage of the authorities of both colleges, seemingly, which created this enabling environment where some of these folks, some of these accused folks, thought that they can get away with stuff like this. There's also a possible link with the ruling party. In fact, in this case, the main accused, Manojit Mishra, was said to be a TMC Students' Wing member. The allegations were made during the RG Kar case as well, that there were deep political connections which helped the accused get away for a bit.
और महिलाओं के खिलाफ जितना काम यहाँ पर हो रहा है, उसमें कहीं ना कहीं अपराधीकरण राजनीति का हो गया है, और राजनीतिक अपराधीकरण के चलते यहाँ तक कि शिक्षा का अपराधीकरण हो गया है. मेरे से पूर्व मेरे मित्रों ने आपको जैसे बताया कि अपॉइंटमेंट्स क्रिमिनल्स के हो रहे हैं कॉलेजेस के अंदर. वहां पे पुलिस वेरिफिकेशन नाम की कोई चीज है या नहीं?
मूल विषयটা দাঁড়ালো তৃণমূল কংগ্রেসের স্টেট স্পন্সর গুন্ডামি, মহিলা বলাৎকার করার ব্যবস্থা, তার কারণে ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গলের বাংলাতে লাগাতার হচ্ছে. সাবধান হয়ে যান, এই দেশের মহিলাদের সঙ্গে এভাবে অত্যাচার করা যাবে না.
So who is this main accused? Manojit Mishra, he's the main accused. He's not facing police charges for the first time. In April of this year, he was arrested for thrashing a cop. He was later granted bail in that case. The incident has unfolded after Manojit had a scuffle with a guard who was deployed at an ATM. As the guard then called up the police, he manhandled the PCR vehicle, the police officer who had arrived there in the PCR vehicle. In September of last year, Manojit attempted apparently to kill a student, and he's not been attending college since that incident came to light. Students of the law college have also alleged that they are regularly intimidated and threatened by him and his cohorts. He even allegedly kidnapped students who spoke out against him. Manojit Mishra reportedly had the patronage of the college administration as well. He was on the payrolls of the college as well. But as the state government has been facing increasingly tough and uncomfortable questions, some within the Trinamool Congress have indulged in victim shaming.
এই সমস্ত ক্রিমিনালিটি, রেপ, মলেস্টেশন, এটা কারা করে? যারা এই পারভার্টেড টাইপের পুরুষ, তাদের বিরুদ্ধে লড়াই করা উচিত. নিরাপত্তা সবই রয়েছে, কিন্তু একজন বন্ধু যদি বান্ধবীকে রেপ করে তাহলে সেখানে নিরাপত্তা কি করে দেবে বলুন তো আমাকে? কলেজের ভেতরে যদি করে সেখানে পুলিশ থাকবে কলেজে? নিরাপত্তা কাকে দেবে? নিরাপত্তা তো তার সহকর্মীরা দেবে। সেখানে সহকর্মীরাই রেপ করছে, তাহলে অন্যায়টা কারা করছে?
घटना जो घटे हैं ये निंदा करने का कोई भाषा मेरा जानकारी नहीं है। दुनिया की सबसे बड़ा गंदा काम, सबसे नोंगरा काम यह है। लेकिन कस्बा की घटना से एक मैसेज आ गया पूरा लड़की लोग, पूरा स्टूडेंट लोगों को पास, जे अगर आपको किसी जान पहचान ने बुलाए तो जिस दिन कॉलेज बंद है, परीक्षा चल रहा है, आपको यूनिट की कुछ बनाएगा तो आप मत जाइए, इसमें आपको भला नहीं होगा।
All right, I want to go straight across to a political face-off on this. Shazia Elmi is national spokesperson of the BJP. Mohammad Tausif Rahman is spokesperson of the TMC. Mr. Rahman, let me start with you first. There are eerie similarities between what happened in RG Kar and what's happened now in the South Calcutta Law College. You know, the rape happening inside what is supposed to be a safe zone, a safe territory, particularly for women students inside the four walls of a college campus. The accused in both cases happening to be insiders who are employed by the institutions concerned. The CCTV corroborates exactly what the victim has been narrating, and possible links with the ruling party. Have no lessons been learnt from 1 year ago?
Good evening to everyone. Well, I don't understand on what basis you are saying, because I have a whole history and I have some reports as well, which I would love to share. But you know, today itself, around 4:30 to 5 p.m., just outside the college, there was a girl. She was protesting with her friends as well. And this so-called fact-finding team were there as well, from Biplab Dev, Satyapal Singh, Meenakshi Lekhi, Mannan Mishra, all were standing. And that girl, she's on TV right now in all Bengali channels. Those group from BJP heckled her, molested her, misbehaved with her, and they wanted to, I can't even take a lot of things, but I just request Shazia Elmiji to talk with the BJP Bengal state team that, you know, all are protesting over there. You are not the only one. There are other political parties as well. And your state finding team should take care of those
But Mr.
guys
Rahman, that's
who are there.
not my question at all. Please answer my question. Please answer my question. No, please answer my question. What is important or not important, we'll leave it to our viewers to decide. Please answer the question I asked you.
It is my duty to mention.
Please answer the question I asked you, Mr. Rahman.
Sir, you cannot dictate me, sir, because it's a very important question.
Are you going to answer my question or not?
So I will answer you. I'll answer.
So go ahead.
When you talk about Monojit, and a lot of people are saying that Monojit is very powerful, let me tell you, it's coming from Mamata Bandopadhyay and Abhishek Bandopadhyay as well. Whoever is associated with Monojit, whether giving him a string loose or whatsoever, will not be spared. And let me tell you one thing very straight, that he was arrested within 12 hours. The lawyer of the victim is very happy. He says that I'm totally satisfied. The parents of the victim said, I totally believe in the government and totally believe in the police, that they have done a good job. They all have been arrested and behind the bars. But the thing is that why it is happening? But do you think really like this definition of a rape is only happening in Bengal? What about Odisha, sir? Just 10 days back, 5 rape occurred in Odisha. NCW was not there. This fact-finding team never been there. In Rajasthan, 2025 May.
Okay, one second. I think it's very unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate that any crime against a woman, particularly of this depraved nature, should be politicized like this. But Shazia Elmi, please respond to the point that Mr. Rahman is making. He's saying you don't care about rapes happening in BJP-ruled states, but sometimes something happens in an opposition-ruled state. In this case, happens to be Bengal. You all land up there and politicize it. Please respond, Shazia.
Well, one could say the opposite to Zaka, but I find it very shocking that Tausif, who is from West Bengal, instead of talking about the shocking and chilling rapes that have been going on, young girls, and this after Archikar, this big one, before that Sandesh Khali, and before that how NHRC team had to actually go because some women were punished, senior citizens and also young girls, only because the families did not vote for TMC. So that I find very shocking that, you know, for somebody who cares about his state, we would not want any time to be spent or discussing the details of this rape and how somebody like Monojit, who was rusticated, who had so many charges, was allowed to come back again into the fold, so to speak, and carry on as usual. So you don't want to spend any time at all, Tausif. It makes you so uncomfortable. You want to immediately jump to Orissa and everywhere. You don't want to give the survivor even a little bit of, accord her some dignity and decency by talking about her and what transpired, and to ensure that it doesn't happen again. You're so ready to be a political element right now, instead of somebody who really wants to fix the system. And I think that's exactly what it is. While rapes, I mean, what can we say? They're a scourge and they're a black blot on our humanity, yours, mine, each one of us, and collectively so. But I also want to say that where it comes to West Bengal, because of TMC and its political inaction and its complete complicity in terms of shielding criminals.
So, Mr. Rahman, it's one thing that this main accused had seemingly TMC connections. He was part of the TMC students' wing. But what about your leaders, MPs and MLAs who are victim shaming? The likes of a Kalyan Banerjee, the likes of a Madan Mitra. I mean, these are not novices. These are political veterans. One of them says now women should care about who they go out with. I mean, what does that even mean?
Not at all. Not at all, Zaka.
Yeah, and that she shouldn't have gone out.
You think we are supporting that? You think we are supporting that? Of course, there will be some action against Madan Mitra or Kalyan Banerjee whatsoever, because I don't care what they are saying. I am the official spokesperson sitting with you on a national television. He is a MP or MLA whatsoever, but I don't care. Because I am only concerned whatever the statement is coming from Abhishek Bandyopadhyay and my CM Mamata Bandyopadhyay. But Shazia ji, I have a question from you. You're from your end. I really want to know.
I don't want to answer questions.
No, I really want to know. I really want to know.
You are in no place
I am not
whatsoever.
concerned about your
morally, you have
well.
zero locus to
I
ask
am
questions.
concerned about the family of the victim.
Say
I
what's
am
happening
concerned about the
and
lawyer
answer. Had I been in your place, I would have done
that
the same.
lawyer is
Do not come
satisfied
up
with
with
the
this
police
fake indignation.
and the family is
No, don't do this.
fine.
No, one second. Tausif, Mr. Rahman, one second, please. Mr. Rahman, no. Just because the lawyer is happy and the victim's family are happy, that doesn't absolve of this grave crime that has happened. Let's please not diminish. Let's please not diminish the depravity that was on display at the law college, and the fact that this man. No, one second. The fact that this main accused has a repeated history of getting into this kind of trouble. He was accused of kidnapping a girl student earlier. He was accused of beating up a policeman earlier. Where does he get all this power from? Where does he get this culture of intimidating people from? Who is giving him this power? Who is he?
Sir, Monojit and his associates or whoever is giving him powers will not get away. That's for sure. You take it from us. He is behind the bars anyways. But what I want to know that why there is such.
But there is a reign of
no. Just let me complete. Let me complete. I understand. There is a rape happening in Bengal. But at the same time, Zaka, there was a rape in the month of May 2025.
Let's speak one at a time, please. Yeah, let him finish and then I'll come to you, Shazia. Yeah.
Shazia ji, राजस्थान में 19 साल की लड़की के साथ आईसीयू के अंदर रेप हुआ। मई में 2025 जो एनसीडब्ल्यू cannot be seen anywhere. I am answering you everything. Monojit will get death sentence. We promise you. But let me tell you, Rajasthan 19-year-old girl got raped inside ICU.
You're doing it again, and shame on you. Shame on you for being like this. For being such a vulture.
Shame on you, man.
Shame
you're
on
a woman.
For
you're a woman.
This
and still you are doing a brokerage for BJP. I'm not doing for
importance of discussing this in your own state.
I have questions.
You know, but Mr. Rahman, one question. No, 1 second. Mr. Rahman, you accuse the BJP of politicizing. You're saying, you're dancing on top of this depraved crime. You're trying to score political points. That's the accusation that you're making against the BJP.
Not accusation.
That's a political accusation you're making. You can call it what you want. I can only call it an accusation. But point is, Mr. Rahman. Yeah. So the BJP can turn around, Shazia can very well turn around and say that you're doing the exact same thing. You're equating one rape with another just because that happens to be BJP ruled state and yours happens to be an opposition ruled state. Zaka, you're also politicizing.
Zaka, just give me 1 minute. I don't want any interruption. When you talk about lesson, what Bengal has learned lesson in last 1 year. So just give me 1 minute. I want to complete. There was a rape in Gurap, 5-year-old murder case, November 2025 in Bengal. The accused Ashok Singh was arrested the same night the minor body was found. A charge sheet was filed within 14 days and he is behind the bars. Let me talk about it. See, this is not a debate. Shazia ji, it doesn't happen like that. Please, thoda sharam rakhiye meri baat suniye.
Between criminals and politicians.
Let me talk about Bengal. I'm proud of Bengal. I'm proud of Bengal. I'm still proud of Bengal. Are you proud of BJP?
खतरनाक गुंडा राज जो बन गया है उससे डरने की जरूरत है. अगर डरेंगे नहीं तो उससे लड़ेंगे कैसे?
We are the only one who's giving.
अगर लड़कियां डर रही हैं, अगर महिलाएं असुरक्षित महसूस कर रही हैं तो डरने की जरूरत है. आपका क्या मतलब?
Shazia, let him finish. I'll come to you. I'll give you the closing comment, but let him finish, please.
We are the only.
So brazen. He doesn't answer one question straight.
I am answering you everything. You are not answering me. We are the only state who has given twice death sentence.
I'm not here to answer you. Save this indignation.
You think?
For somewhere
You think
else,
मैं किसी reception में बारात में आया हूँ? That I will answer you. Am I your
Look at the
servant?
attitude.
Okay, no. Please, let's also watch the language. Come on, Mr. Rahman. You're a young spokesperson. You know, language is important. I believe there has to be a certain decorum to the debate. But Shazia, you know, again, I come back to the point. TMC is making this into a business of equanimity. Rapes happen in Bengal, rapes happen in Rajasthan. BJP is only concerned about rapes that happen in opposition rule states. They're making it some kind of a political level playing field.
Okay, Azaka, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Now, let me come to that. Whether it's Sandesh Khali or Birbhum, or multiple cases that we saw, NHRC had to comment.
In the month of
now,
okay, Rahman, please, Mr. Rahman, let her finish, please, yeah.
What makes West Bengal different from other states is that there is political patronage. There is a complete nexus. There is a takeover of these criminal elements into the system, so to speak, the admin and the government and the system. And that has really impacted the overall law and order situation. Okay. Things are so bad because there is a complete criminalization and a stronghold of that. And that's how it's working and moving ahead. So the government is compromised and Mamata Banerjee is the Home Minister. It is really shocking that, we keep coming back to this. Yes, rapes are, what can I say? They're an anathema and I've spoken about how to blot they are on my conscience and yours and the collective conscience of who we are as a people. But I want to ask you, if you know what's happening in West Bengal, it's a deep problem. There is a complete nexus and criminalization. There is political shielding of criminals and they've taken over. And that's pretty much a part of the machinery that works.
I got to leave it at that. Thank you very much to Shazia Elmi and Tausif Rahman. I wish we had more time, but I need to move on to the next segment of the show. And we're moving from east to west, from Bengal to Maharashtra, where just before the monsoon session of the State Assembly began today, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis took the decision to revoke the government resolutions, or the GRs, that were issued on the 16th of April 1st and then subsequently on the 17th of June on the contentious three-language policy, which basically was to induct Hindi as the third language in primary schools from Standard 1 to Standard 5. The government has also formed a committee to take a relook into this three-language policy, when it should be introduced, in what form and shape it should be introduced. Chief Minister Fadnavis said that the government had only one intention, and that was to grant extra academic credits to students who study in Marathi medium schools.
पहली बात तो यह है, उनका हिंदी को विरोध है, हमारा हिंदी को विरोध नहीं है. जहां तक हिंदी को कंपलसरी सिखाने का सवाल है, तो इस संदर्भ में जो निर्णय हुआ था, उन्हीं के कार्यकाल में कमेटी बनी थी, वो हमेशा पलटते रहते हैं. यानी पलटू राम, ये नाम उनके लिए बहुत सही है.
Now, the state government does not see this as a rollback or a U-turn. In fact, Chief Minister Fadnavis showed what he claimed was documentary proof of how former Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray had accepted the 150-page Mashelkar report and ordered a subcommittee to frame rules for its effective implementation. But there are many factors, political factors, that are at play here as to why the government resolutions were rolled back. The decision comes ahead of the July 5 agitation that was called by both the Thackeray cousins, Raj Thackeray as well as Uddhav Thackeray. So it was going to be a sort of coming together of the Thackeray clan to protest against this three-language policy. They've been raising this Marathi Asmita issue to counter the BJP-led government. There were also social groups and cultural organizations which had strongly criticized this move to introduce Hindi, particularly in the primary school level. They felt that it put the local population and students in Marathi medium schools at a disadvantage. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar as well as Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, both of them were also not entirely happy with the decision. They also felt that this language row unnecessarily gave the Shiv Sena UBT a fresh lease of life, particularly after the drubbing it received in the previous assembly elections. One cannot also miss the fact that the long-delayed local body elections in Mumbai for the BMC are also due in the next few months. Some members of the Mahayuti and Mr. Fadnavis's government felt this could be an issue that could give the opposition a platform and was seen as best avoided going into the local body elections, which, like I said, are due in the next few months.
त्याच्या विरोधात नुसते विरोधी पक्ष नाही तर पूर्णपणे आपण पाहताय रस्त्यावर मराठी माणूस उतरला होता, संपूर्ण महाराष्ट्र पेटला होता आणि मुख्यमंत्र्यांना तो GR त्यांचा मागे घ्यायला लागला. तरी देखील कालचा विजय मोठा आहे आणि मराठी माणूस जर एकवटला, महाराष्ट्राची ताकद जर एकत्र आली तर काय चमत्कार घडू शकतो आणि ताकद किती आपली ही दिसते. त्यांच्या सक्तीसमोर महाराष्ट्राची शक्ती जिंकलेली आहे.
And looking at the pressure which was mounting on the government, this government got scared and then they had to take a call that this for the coming Mumbai election this won't go pretty well for the politics, so it's better that we take out or we take back the GR. That is what we feel.
Meanwhile, from Maharashtra to Karnataka, where there seems to be internal rift, there are open rumblings now over the leadership, and there are clearly two distinct camps. That is the story of the Congress's Karnataka conundrum. As far as the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah is concerned, he says all is well. In fact, he dismissed any rumors of discord between him and his deputy DK Shivkumar, saying that the government will remain intact for 5 years like a rock. He in fact even held up DK's hand. DK was seen smiling, but whether or not that went down well, we will know in the next few days, because the Congress's in charge of the state, Randeep Singh Surjewala, is in the state for a couple of days. MLAs who are loyal to DK Shivkumar are raising their voice at a time when the Congress has dispatched the state in charge to take stock and nip these rumors in the bud. Interestingly, Congress party chief, All India chief, AICC president, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, did not categorically deny or scotch these rumors. Instead, he passed the buck to what he called the party's high command. When asked about this renewed buzz about a possible leadership change in Karnataka, the Congress president had just one answer, that it is in the hands of the party's high command. The BJP, of course, quick to seize this to ask the most obvious question, which is who exactly is this unseen of and unheard of high command? I mean, who is bigger, at least technically in the hierarchy of the Congress party, bigger than the president of the AICC?
That is in the hands of High Command. Nobody can say here what is going in the High Command. This is left to the High Command. High Command has got power to take further actions, but unnecessarily one should not create problems.
But there seems to be some amount of damage control that the Congress seems to be doing. Randeep Singh Surjewala, like I said, is in the state. And here's what he is expected to do. He's got meetings with a bunch of MLAs. The discussions will center on what they call the Congress party's organization being strengthened in Karnataka. The meetings will also gather insights on the roles and the effectiveness of bloc Congress presidents. The sessions will evaluate the performance and coordination of the heads of the various cells of the party in Karnataka. The talks will also focus on developing and refining local-level organizational strategies. The review will also assess the effectiveness and contributions of local district presidents, etc.
Well, for now, the lid may have been put on speculation, but the crisis is still not over. In a repeat of what happened, for example, in Chhattisgarh, in Rajasthan, and to a certain extent in Himachal Pradesh, in Karnataka, the speculation is still rife. And for how long will Siddaramaiah continue as the Chief Minister? What sources within the party are telling us that the meeting's agenda was one to ensure that the poll promises, which were particularly made by Rahul Gandhi, are fulfilled. What is the reality on the ground? There have been multiple complaints by many of the MLAs that no one from the government listens to them. Ministers are also not meeting them. A report card of sorts was prepared as far as the ministers are concerned. The possibility of a cabinet reshuffle soon in case the ministers are not fulfilling the promises of the people is also something which was being mulled upon. But at this point of time, the real fight will break out between Siddaramaiah and the DK Shivkumar camp. DK Shivkumar supporters would ideally want him to become the chief minister, but if he doesn't, at least his people should be accommodated on any impending cabinet reshuffle which comes up. It's a crisis situation for the Central Congress leadership, I would say, and also a challenge for them because replacing Siddaramaiah is not going to be easy. First of all, he has the right caste combinations. Second, of course, is the fact that he's someone who's rooted to the ground. He has a grip over the MLAs, over the constituencies as well. And while DK Shivkumar has been seen as a troubleshooter, someone very, very close to the Gandhi siblings, many feel that he still doesn't have it in him to become the chief minister, and it could lead to the unravelling of the Karnataka government. What we are picking up by way of top sources in the rounds of meeting which took place, MLAs have been asked to concentrate on the poll promises to fulfill those demands.
Meanwhile, in a shocking story, actor Shafali Zariwala was found dead at her residence on the night of June 27th. She was rushed to the hospital by her husband, actor Parag Tyagi, where doctors declared her dead. Her death has triggered a huge debate. Shafali Zariwala is just 42 years old and she was seemingly very healthy, even fit. Her untimely death has shifted the spotlight on anti-aging medicines, skin glow tablets and vitamin supplements and what kind of impact it has on one's body. This has once again brought back the debate on just why young individuals, people in their 30s and 40s who are evidently fit, why are they suffering from cardiac-related deaths? Now, here's what the probe into Shafali Zariwala's death has found so far. It is very preliminary. The Mumbai police sources have said that the actor fainted because of low blood pressure and was then hospitalized right before her death. She was consuming anti-aging medicines. The police claim she was self-medicating without consulting the doctors, even though that's been contested by her family. On the day of her passing, she had consumed stale food. Again, a claim made by the police. I'm not sure what the family is saying on that. This was also after an extended period of a fast because there was some kind of puja that was happening in her house. So she was already on a fast, ate bad food, and then her BP suddenly dipped. Doctors say that this self-medication could have triggered the cardiac arrest. However, we don't know that definitively because the postmortem report is still awaited. Nothing can be said for certain, for sure, because unless the postmortem report clearly indicates what caused that death, we only have the fact that her BP dipped suddenly. But why it dipped, what was the inherent cause of it, we don't know that quite for sure yet. But we do know that she was taking anti-aging medicines, whether in the form of pills or even sometimes in the form of injections. Can they cause cardiac arrest? Now, experts believe that certain anti-aging hormone therapy can cause a strain on the heart muscles. Unregulated supplement usage, for example, again can cause cardiac issues. And in Shafali's case, the issue of self-medication, which the police are claiming, could have also aggravated her condition. Long-term use of some of these anti-aging medicines could also raise blood pressure and cholesterol levels. And those fluctuations, no matter whether you're 30 years old or 50 years old or 70 years old, if there are deep fluctuations in either blood pressure levels or in cholesterol levels, then that can cause heart troubles, that can cause cardiac issues. Vulnerable patients who already have a predisposition or a precondition are at an even bigger risk of contracting cardiac disease. Reactions from injectable medicines does have the potential of triggering shock within the system. Our Himani is now explaining what could have possibly gone wrong that led to this tragic death of someone who's gone far too soon.
Shafali's case is not an isolated one. From celebrities to everyday professionals, heart attacks are now striking young Indians with growing frequency. And the data shows this is no longer just a lifestyle issue. It's becoming a national health emergency. According to the latest data under the central government's flagship Ayushman Bharat, the maximum number of claims are for an angioplasty procedure that involves putting stents in the arteries of the heart to remove blockages which could prove fatal. The scheme serves as health insurance for the bottom 40% population of India who are extremely poor and vulnerable, busting the myth that heart ailment is a rich man's disease. The data shows that a whopping rupees 1,051 crore has been spent by the way of claims under the scheme so far on the procedure named PTCA, inclusive of diagnostic angiogram. This is the procedure to perform angioplasty after an angiography is conducted which shows blockages in one's heart. From Shafali Zariwala's shocking death to surging drug sales and Ayushman Bharat's burden, the message is clear. India's heart crisis is not only real, it's getting younger and moving rural. While we have focused on increasing incidence of heart attacks, we must also consider the side effects of anti-aging drugs and injections like hormone therapies such as testosterone or growth hormones, which can increase the risk of heart attacks if not used carefully.
The Iran-Israel conflict may have been paused as a ceasefire that's been announced, but the tensions continue to remain high. Just days after the ceasefire came into effect, Iran has now cast doubts on the durability of the US-brokered ceasefire with Israel, even warning that it is ready to respond if hostilities with the Jewish state resume. Tehran has also demanded that the United Nations recognize Israel and the United States as the aggressors and for being responsible for the 12-day war. The Iran-Israel conflict, which began on the 13th of June with Israeli airstrikes that killed several senior Iranian military and nuclear officials, shook the global markets. It raised fears of regional escalation. Will the ceasefire hold, and for how long? That seems to be the million-dollar question. All right, so what exactly has this Israel-Iran 12-day war achieved? Of course, America joining in and obliterating Iran's nuclear facilities. Has Iran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon been pushed back by a few months or years, or has it been permanently damaged? To try and assess the longer-term fallout of this 12-day war, it in a sense is a culmination of this 20-month military campaign that Israel has waged, first against Hamas, then against Hezbollah, the Houthis, and of course, finally, at the root cause of all of it, which, as Israel describes, is the evil Ayatollah regime in Iran. To try and assess this, I'm now joined by a very, very special guest. He's one of the most authoritative pro-Israel voices anywhere in the world. Mr. Douglas Murray is a British historian and author, and his latest book on democracies and death cults, Israel and the Future of Civilization, takes a very long, hard look at what has happened post-October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched that attack on Israeli citizens. Thank you very much, Mr. Murray, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and for this interview. So first things first, this 12-day long war between Israel and Iran, Israel started it, and then America joined in the last couple of days. America, as President Trump claims, obliterated Iran's nuclear program or its ability to develop a nuclear weapon. What is your assessment of these last 10 or 12 days? How do you see these developments as an observer? What has this military operation, this war, this 12-day war, as President Trump describes it, what has it actually achieved?
Well, you mentioned earlier that this is something that the Israeli government has talked about for many years. It's actually decades now that Israel and indeed much of the world, including the international community, has warned about the Iranian revolutionary government trying to get hold of nuclear weapons. And it's been the view of many countries, I would say most countries in the international community, that if the revolutionary government in Iran were to get possession of the world's most lethal weaponry, it would do two things. One is that it would put the world's most dangerous weapons into the hands of one of the world's most dangerous governments, one that has terrorist armies all across the Middle East and indeed cells across much of the world. And secondly, that it would lead to nuclear proliferation in the Middle East of a kind that would be absolutely impossible to live with for the Middle East or the wider region. So for decades, people have warned about this. To me, one of the most interesting things about whatever history will call this, it might be the post-October 7th war, it might be the war of 1979 to 25, from the moment that the Ayatollah Khomeini took over, seized power in Iran, or it might be the 12-day war, as President Trump's been calling it. But the interesting thing about what has happened in recent days is that so many world leaders and so many countries have seen that what Israel and America toward the end of this campaign have achieved is exactly what so many other countries wanted, by one way or the other. And one of the most interesting comments of the past week was from the German Chancellor Merz, who said, before America joined in the bombing, said, Israel is doing the world's dirty work for us. And what he meant by that was, as he said, the government in Tehran that has governed, or rather misgoverned, Iran since 1979 is one of the most dangerous governments in the world, sponsors terrorism around the world, and that the world knew that the mullahs, the Ayatollah, getting an Iranian nuclear bomb was incredibly undesirable. Yet what did most of the world do to prevent it? And the answer is they were taken through endless rotations of diplomacy, all the time during which the Iranians strung out the negotiations and advanced their nuclear program. And the world knew that at some point the country most threatened, most overtly, explicitly threatened from Tehran, Israel, was going to have to act as the country nearest the boat, as the country first in the eyes of the Ayatollahs. And that's what Israel did. And as I've said for many years, what has rolled out is exactly what we expected to roll out, which is the same governments that said we will never allow Iran to get the bomb were in the end unwilling to do very much. And when Israel and then America actually did do the thing needed to stop Iran getting the bomb, many of those same countries inevitably had some kind of criticism of the action or called for de-escalation and much more. But essentially what Israel has done, what with American backing towards the end, is what had to be done to stop the Ayatollahs getting the bomb and to stop nuclear weaponry spreading across the Middle East region.
So now the question of, what the long-term impact is of the action taken by Israel, and then, like you said, in the final couple of days, the United States joined in. So the experts are divided on this. I guess the jury is still out on the true extent of the damage to Iran's nuclear program. What is your assessment? How far back has Iran's ability to enrich uranium to weapons grade or to develop a nuclear weapon, how far back has that been pushed? Has it been sort of permanently depleted with these strikes, or has it just been pushed back by a few months or years? What's your take?
Well, you mentioned that experts are divided on it. I would slightly push back on that. The experts don't know. It is the truth of it. Nobody yet knows exactly the extent of the damage. I'd be surprised. There are reports that have been minimizing the amount of damage caused, particularly by the American strikes. I've read people claiming that the Iranian nuclear program has merely been set back weeks or months. By the way, the same people tending to make that claim are the same people who, until a couple of weeks ago, were claiming that the Iranian Revolutionary Government wasn't seeking nuclear weaponry. But I'd be surprised if it was merely set back a bit. The damage done to all of the nuclear sites hit is significant. The damage to Fordow in particular is reportedly extensive, if not complete. President Trump is saying that it's complete. We'll see. I would have thought there will still be something left in the program, but whether or not that's anything like enough for the Iranians to restart the program, even if they decide to, is a question we just don't know yet. Mm-hmm. But yes, I would have thought much of this is face-saving attempts by Tehran. which massively misstepped. It misstepped in a set of ways. One has been by, as I've often said, by colonizing the Middle East for the last 45 or 46 years, by taking over with its terrorist proxies, not just Gaza, but Lebanon, Yemen, much of Iraq, much of Syria in recent years, acting as the colonizing power across the region, sponsoring terror, sponsoring the October 7th attacks and causing the war that has resulted, and then again misstepping by thinking that if they kept stringing out negotiations and seeking nuclear weaponry, the whole world would act as it has acted to date. And would sluggishly keep going back to the negotiating table in Geneva and so on, allowing the mullahs to play for time but not acting. And they seem not to have taken into account that President Trump acts differently from many other world leaders, as you and your viewers will have noticed, and that when he promised his voters that he would prevent Iran ever getting a nuclear bomb, he meant it.
So the question now is, what happens now? There is a ceasefire, which President Trump has announced. Both parties have agreed to it. Yes, there was, both parties did indulge in some amount of firing even after the announcement of that ceasefire. It is a fragile one. It's a tenuous one, but it's holding. And that's the important detail, the fact that the ceasefire is holding. What happens now to the dynamic of the Middle East? What happens to Israel-Iran equations? What happens to what you just described? If Iran has been the biggest colonizing power in the Middle East for the last 40-45 years and used its proxies like Hamas and Houthis and Hezbollah, do they just give up on that playbook? Or have these actors, these non-state actors, these terror proxies, have they been weakened to such a position in Israel's campaign post-October 7, 2023, that the old playbook cannot be sustained anymore?
It's a little early to say. The regime in Tehran has certainly had not just extensive power in the Middle East region, but of course has a lot of terrorist cells and elsewhere around the world. It might be a time when the Ayatollah decides to ignite some of them and to set some of them off. That also, of course, would be a catastrophic mistake if such attacks were in any way traced back to him. But it's possible he'll do something through a relatively unconventional means, through softer targets than we've seen in recent weeks. If the Ayatollah is seen to be breaking the ceasefire, I would have thought that would be extremely bad for him, both in terms of his own position in the country, where he is teetering as we speak. He's about the only senior membership of the regime still going. And that really was that he's reportedly was taken off the target list on the orders of President Trump, who thought that, maybe correctly, that killing the Ayatollah would effectively lead to what would be perceived as regime change in Iran, which is something that President Trump has said he's not interested in. But the flip side of that, of whether or not this fragile ceasefire holds, is whether Israel is able to effectively not act, even if it believes it needs to, because of the imperative of the US president, which is, I've made a ceasefire. I mean, it's the same thing that he did with India-Pakistan recently, but on a different scale. But, is that President Trump said, I've done the ceasefire. Nobody, people better make sure that they don't do anything to break the ceasefire. Israel has a tricky corner in a way here, because President Trump will want the ceasefire to hold so that he can claim, rightly or wrongly, that he's done what he needed to do and now there will be peace. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they'll be pushed again in different ways by the Ayatollah. But the degradation of the Iranian terrorist proxies across the region is astonishing. I mean, Hezbollah was acting as a quasi-government in Lebanon until the last year or so, and it has been so destroyed that its capabilities have been subdued, not to nothing. but to an extent that their power in Lebanon, for instance, their ability to fire rockets into their neighbors from there is massively diminished. If Iran's terrorist regime and colonizing power across the Middle East has been as significantly damaged as I think it has, it presents an enormous opportunity for a different kind of peace and a different kind of future across the Middle East. There is no reason for the Houthi forces in Yemen to be firing ballistic missiles into Israel from many miles away and causing retaliatory strikes by the Israeli Air Force. There is no reason for that to be happening were Iran not handing ballistic missiles to the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. So if the missiles stop coming and the firing stops, every country in the region has the opportunity for a better future.
You talked about the India-Pakistan question a moment ago, the war that happened back in May. And again, in the context of President Trump claiming repeatedly that he was the one who brought about the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And, as you would imagine, there is a lot of anguish here in India, particularly within the supporters of the ruling party, that why should a third party, however powerful that third party might be, why should a third party get involved and mediate the ceasefire, as President Trump has been claiming? And B, there is also a degree of anguish about India could have gone much further. This is the furthest that they've gone since the 1971 war in the last 50 plus years. Clearly, India had the advantage militarily, and had it not been President Trump's intervention, it could have gone further, somewhere like what Israel has done with Iran, and sort of changed this pattern which Pakistan has been using for the last 30, 40 years of using these terror proxies to hit out against India and to kill innocent civilians in India.
It is a very interesting counterexample to it, because yes, I've heard and read that a lot in recent weeks, and not least as more has come out about the nature and the origin of the terrorists who attacked in India. It's a very similar playbook, which elements in Pakistan, as with elements in Iran, have been playing, which is that you use terrorism, you use proxies, you use deniable and yet obvious proxies, so that there's always a gray area that you can try to exploit in the international community. So you can both, for instance, claim some kind of, let's say, glory at home for doing this and deny it internationally. To that extent, it's a very similar playbook. And yes, that question of have we been stopped is one of the most important ones. To my mind, whenever terrorist proxies are used by a rogue regime to carry out attacks, one of the noticeable things is the way in which in many contexts around the world, in India, Pakistan, Israel and Iran, the international community has this tendency to sort of say, we want you to go for a ceasefire now. And that's because the international community always calls for a return to the status quo ante, a return to the situation before the attacks. But a country that's been attacked doesn't necessarily have the luxury of simply returning to the period before the attacks. Certainly not if it wants to prevent more attacks. I'm very sympathetic to those voices inside India who think actually that the almost imposition, not really an imposition, but the urge towards a ceasefire merely sets up the conditions for the same thing happening again. That's something that Israel has suffered through for decades. And that's why I mentioned that one of the ways in which we might, or historians might, end up looking at this war is as the war of 1979 to whatever date you want to put on it, which is the moment that the Ayatollah Khomeini seized power in Iran and decided to turn an extraordinary civilization, the Persian people, into a people who were subjugated by the most extreme form of Shiite Islam, and to subjugate, first of all, the people of Iran and then people across the region, then to wage war on their neighbors. Were this not to have happened many decades ago, the situation in the Middle East would be very different, as the situation of India-Pakistan would be different if Pakistan wasn't what it is.
So which brings me to the central theme of your book, which is on democracies and death cults, Israel and the future of civilization. There are some things that democracies around the world have faced with these terror attacks, whether it's Israel in the October 7th attacks, the United States faced that in 9/11. India's been a victim of terrorism that's been sponsored and brought on by Pakistan for a number of decades now, most recently the one that happened in Kashmir. How do democracies respond to this? What is a democratic response to a bunch of fanatics who have been ideologically brainwashed that it's okay to go out there and kill innocent people in the name of some twisted ideology, and they're willing to die for this? What is the rational democratic playbook to respond to this?
It's an extraordinarily deep challenge, and it's one I've thought about for many decades, as I've seen these death cult ideologies try to advance in country after country, and particularly in democracy after democracy. There's a phrase that the jihadists have used for many years, and it's similar to previous death cult ideologies in history, but it boils down to this this boast: "We love death more than you love life." And I think many people in the democracies of the world, like us, find it hard to imagine that anyone could mean this. It seems almost impossible. And yet, if you look at the actions of jihadist terrorists, whether it's in Mumbai or in, as you mentioned, in New York or anywhere else, in Paris, this is a fervent belief that certain people have, and they believe not just in taking life, but in glorifying in death in the name of their warped ideology. And it is a great challenge to democracies to know how to respond to this, because, of course, we have to respond to it. There's no doubt about that in most people's minds. And yet, at the same time, as I mentioned before, that people always call for de-escalation or for effectively not dealing with the problem at its root, not taking the trail right to the root of the problem, to the backers, to the people and the countries that push out the radical ideology, and much more. We are constantly, countries that are attacked by such groups, we're constantly told that even to react to them, for instance, would simply cause more of them, which is not true. Most of these groups are eminently capable of being destroyed, as with the example of Hezbollah recently. But all the democracies of the world will forever be called upon to be restrained and much more. And there's both good reason for that and also a very cynical window that can emerge. There's good reason to say, of course, we will never behave like the terrorists behave. We will never deliberately target innocent civilians or anything like that, because, I mean, after all, why would you if you were trying to destroy a terrorist group? Of course, you're trying to go for the terrorists themselves, for their backers and much more. But into that window of international concern that always erupts is always the opportunity for us to be urged not to do the job of actually responding to the terrorists. And I believe that in recent decades, all countries that have been attacked by this type of death cult ideology have had a very similar challenge. And Israel believed it was navigating the challenge relatively well until the 7th of October, when Yahya Sinwar of Hamas waged his war and sent his thousands of terrorists across the Gaza border into Israel in a genuine attempt to destroy the state of Israel. The post-October 7th war, which I've been covering and describe in the book close up from inside Gaza, inside Lebanon, inside Israel and elsewhere, is one of the most interesting and important consequential wars of modern times. because it shows both what terrorist groups, if they get control of significant territory, as Hamas did with Gaza, can achieve, and that they do actually do what they promise they will do. When they say that they want to annihilate their neighbors, they really do mean it, and they give it their best go. But on the flip side of that, as I describe on Democracies and Death Cults, such atrocities also present the challenge and an ability to respond by countries, in this case by Israel in particular, how to respond to this fanatical extremist ideology and to actually take the best opportunity to take this ideology and its backers out and move to a more peaceable future.
All right, Mr. Douglas Murray, for this fascinating conversation and your fascinating insights. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18. Thank you.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Welcome back. Now we are getting a breaking input from the international front. Now Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says trade talks with US have resumed after Canada rescinded its plan to tax US technology firms. Now this comes after US President Donald Trump suspended trade talks with the neighboring nation over its plan to continue with its tax on US tech firms, which he called a direct and blatant attack on our country. All right, so this is the latest as far as the US and Canada trade talks are concerned. Remember, US, in fact, last time has said that there are not going to be any negotiation with Canada because of the tax that they have put on US technology firms. And now the latest that we are getting to know is that the talks between Canada and US is going to resume. And this has been confirmed by the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who says that the trade talks with US have resumed after Canada rescinded its plan to tax US technology firms. Now, this is happening after US President Donald Trump has in fact suspended the trade talks with the neighboring nation over its plan to continue with its tax on US tech firm, which he has called it a direct and blatant attack on the country. I'm now joined by CNN News 18's Akansha Swaroop on this broadcast. Akansha, the talks between US and Canada, which was in fact completely withdrawn by both the sides, is now going to continue again. What is really the conditions on which the talks is going to continue now?
So what we can tell you is that they are going to resume because on Friday, Donald Trump had called off the trade talks. He had said that it was a blatant attack. And remember, this is a digital services tax that you are looking at, which was imposed on all of these US tech firms. And they were supposed to be paying 3% of their business, which was above $20 million per year. And the Canadian Prime Minister and US President now will be resuming trade negotiations because finally Canada has scrapped its digital services tax, which was also to take effect after Sunday. And as we all know, this is in a bid to advance the trade negotiations, which have been stalled after Donald Trump threatened to end these trade talks on Friday. And they are looking to finalize a deal by 21st of July, according to Canada's finance ministry. And it's important to also highlight that the Trumpian tariffs have taken a toll, especially on Canada's economy. And we've already seen the kind of relations nosediving, especially under the previous Trudeau government. And things seem to have, reached much of a headway after Donald Trump interacted with the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney during the G7 summit. So it's now it's being seen as a fresh start, and they could not, both sides, especially Canada, could not have afforded.
Viewers, No lessons have been learned by the Congress party. Nothing has changed since the days when Sonia Gandhi undermined the post of the Prime Minister during the UPA era. Look at those pictures in the middle of